Welcome to MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next. If you're not too careful, you just might learn something.
Well, hi there. Welcome back to MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next, and if you're not too careful, you just might learn something. So today, now that we have the Redneck Wet Blaster version 2.0 up, running, tested, ready to rock, now we're going to go ahead and start wet blasting the frame on Old Blue over here, and we'll go ahead and I'll do a walk around of the frame before, and I've already taken a bunch of pictures of the frame before, so we can kind of do a comparison after. But first, I'm going to go ahead and get my wet blaster set up here. One thing that I neglected to show yesterday is that when your bin, sifting bin, fills up with all the little pebbles and stuff that aren't good for the blaster, we just flip it up and give her a couple of knocks here and wash that, scrape out anything that don't belong in there, and then she goes right back where she belongs. Easy peasy. So now all I gotta do is plug her up, turn the water on, and warm the pressure washer up. It's a little cool this morning. It's about 50 degrees, but still feels nice. It's crisp. So let's get started. Okay, we'll start from the front here and just get kind of a close-up look at the rust. Now, of course, this truck here is in way better shape, or this frame's in way better shape than the original. This is mainly just surface rust, and it should knock off pretty easy with the wet blaster. And here's our junction where we had to shorten this frame because it was a long bed and we had to make it a short bed. Fortunately, the frames weren't drastically different, so we were able to do it rather easily. Some frames, short bed and long bed's entirely different and you can't mate them up, so we kind of got lucky on this one. I tried to straighten that piece out, and I may still do some more work on it, or maybe if I'm lucky I'll find one in a boneyard or something. But it's not really critical, just really its only purpose is to hold up the spare tire. Here's the back cross member here. Well, I'm sure glad I was able to get this rotisserie. The last time I did this on my other Ford, this thing was like up on jack stands and I was underneath it trying to work above my head and all, and this is just so much nicer. And when we get it all done, we'll do another walk around and see how, kind of like a before and after. There's front cross member there. Usually those things are caked in about 2 inches of grease spooge, but this one was in pretty good shape. Let's take a walk over, look at the other truck here, and you see the difference. There's just so much rot on it. And up here, up front, is not terrible. You know, if this was the worst of it, I'd have just used this frame. But you know, it's just so many areas where stuff gets into, and just it's cancer. I mean, it just eats everything away. And you can, you know, see stuff like that and that. I mean, again, if it was just one or two things, you know, it wouldn't be so bad. You could fix it, but this is just everything is in varying levels of advanced decay. So, and there's also cracking started on the frame here from where these bed mounts have rusted so thin, you know, and cracks start to propagate from there. Last thing I want is a thing to be driving down the road and damn frame crack in half. That would be horribly inconvenient. Alright. Oh yeah, and one other thing is I'll also be wet blasting these rims. I'll have to swap the tires, and so I can keep this thing mobile if I need to move it around, and have these old tires removed, and then we'll wet blast the rims and repaint them, get them looking as good as new. Well, I got myself plenty of sand to start with, and a good thing really on that test that I did yesterday, didn't use quite as much sand as I thought it would. I really think it used less sand than it did with my old air powered sandblaster. So anywho, let's get started, shall we? Alright, so I'm just using my camera here, or my phone. We got a good bit of the frame done last weekend, but don't you know that bin, that media bin, still held the sand up to where it would make a hole and all the sand would be around it. And, you know, you'd have almost maybe a third of a bag of sand in there that you couldn't get to. So I'll show you how we're fixing to fix that. All right, so to remedy this situation, I'm going to go ahead and make a media bin that has a kind of like a, not necessarily a cone bottom, but like a pyramid, so I can make it out of triangles. It's a lot easier to make out of wood. And 17.5 inches looks like that'll give me plenty of 17.5 inches will give me plenty of room there to stay clear of the bin, so the sifter dumps into it good. Now, to make this new bin, I'm going to use me some 3/4 inch plywood, and I'm going to need to make 4 triangles, and I'm going to use slope them at 60 degrees. That's what that angle is right there. And to figure that out, you just use one of these, and it gives you your angle. And you start at one side, make your angle and start your line, and then measure over how far you want and put your 60-degree jig on there and come back down until they intersect. And then what we'll do when we actually make these cuts, we'll cut them at a 45 so that they fit together real nice and make a nice nice box basically when it's all said and done. Okie dokie. So I got my tapered bottom here made, and boy, let me tell you what, making one of these, you think, oh, that's just a pyramid, it's just 4 triangles. Yeah, try it sometime and try and calculate these angles and all that kind of stuff. Torn easy. I ended up finding a calculator online, and I'll link to the website if anybody cares to torture themselves like I did. But and even with that calculator, it gives you degrees of angle out to like the second decimal place. And even I've got a good table saw and a good miter, chop saw and everything, but it doesn't get you to that degree of accuracy. So you're gonna have some gaps, and you may have not quite got your saw right on the line, or maybe you sawed through the line or something or whatever, and it all makes a huge difference in one of these. But I got it close, and I went ahead and in the mitered corners there, used some good carpenter's glue and nailed the corners with my trusty brad nailer, because you've got a tapered or a mitered corner here, so a 1-inch brad going across here each way is penetrates plenty good. But I also put some reinforcement on it with some aluminum angle where the screws here are out into where you got plenty of meat. And because this thing's going to have probably 150, 200 pounds of sand in it, and all that weight's going to be concentrated right here. So I don't want this thing like tuliping out or anything unexpectedly. So maybe I'm paranoid and I'm overbuilding, but if this thing comes apart, then I'll be surprised. So I'm sanding this real smooth. You can see this is the rough part of the plywood before I sanded it, and this is after. So I want to give that sand nothing to hang on to and you know, and hold or whatever, and leave a hole at the bottom. I want it all to fall down. You know, this is pretty much how it's going to be sitting. So the sand will have nowhere to go but down to that one point, and then that's where that pickup tube's going to be coming down in here and picking up from it. So anywho, there's some, doesn't have to be a mirror finish, but you know, I just used some 80 grit on my orbital sander here, my palm sander. That gets it nice and smooth. So I think we'll be all right with that. So anyway, now we'll get this jigged up in the on the wet blaster frame and see how we're gonna make our, you know, square box to go on top of it, how far up we can go with it. Okay, so finally I think I've got this problem licked. So now we've got our media bin here, made it a little bit bigger, and you can see how the bottom comes to a point through making that little plywood pyramid. Boy, that was a pain. Never realized there's so many angles in that thing, it's crazy. But then made just basically a plywood box to go on top of it, and connected them together, and they're good and sturdy. So I'm guessing this thing ought to hold at least 3 bags of sand, if not maybe 4. I'll find out tomorrow. I've got I gotta let the RTV silicone dry right there where I got the pickup tube coming through and going down into the apex of that little pyramid there. So with the sides of that box and the sloping sides of that little pyramid down there where it tapers to a point, got it all sanded nice and smooth so the sand won't hang up on it. And then the pickup tube just comes right out the side there, and it's held in there nice and secure with a kind of a tie down there. And of course I made it, you know, where it works with the same, you know, sifter, so I didn't have to change any of that. And looking forward to giving it a run for its money tomorrow. And it's kind of late in the day now, but we'll fire it up tomorrow and see how she does. And it should just about suck all the sand out of that before it runs out. So we'll see. So stay tuned.